Hi, Virgo. Welcome to your April 2019 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So, as I was compiling your list of transits for April, Virgo, I was like, how am I going to kind of describe this? Because there is a lot of energy in Aries in April, which makes sense because the sun is in Aries for most, in April is in Aries for most of the month. And so for you, the eighth house is where Aries resides or rules. And so I was thinking, well, that's kind of interesting because if the emphasis is on the eighth house, what does it really say about what is going on here? In case you're not familiar or you haven't memorized what the eighth house represents, it's often condensed into sex, death, and other people's money. And that's not the extent of it. I mean, the eighth house is the house that Scorpio rules in the universal chart, and it is the house of secrets that you may be keeping. Actually, it could be your psyche. It's a psychological house, and it can be what's below the surface there. So that's why we say secrets. It's almost like your shadow. So shadow work, and the eighth house is mysteries, the secrets of the universe, the occult. So the word occult means hidden, and these kinds of esoteric arts that, when you hear the word occult, it almost has a negative connotation, doesn't it? Because of the kind of hype that has been given to those different studies like astrology and the tarot. And yet the reason it was hidden is because, well, this is the official story, was that other people could not understand it, so it was only for the given few. But as I say that, I'm thinking, well, if somebody doesn't understand it, they don't understand it. Why does it have to be secret? So I have a feeling like everything else, it's to prevent people from knowing what's really going on. Because then the average schmo has a lot of power, and they wanted to keep people, kind of dependent and stupid. And so the elite, the people that had the connections or the status in society, they were the ones given information, I guess. But here's another thing that the eighth house is: conspiracy theories. So there you go. And I have the sun in the eighth house, so there you go. So how does this translate into what may go on for you, Virgo? Well, with the sun in the eighth house, this can be, because the eighth house can be inheritances. I said other people's money. So if you've been dealing, especially like with father, if the father has passed away and you're dealing with his estate, this could be what is going on in April. And by the way, I'm not saying that the father passed away in April. This would probably be something that has already happened, and you're dealing with the after effects, and you're trying to kind of organize things. Now, this is the sun can represent the father, but there's also the possibility that this is just kind of making you aware of your partner's finances, because the sun can enlighten you, so to speak. And since the eighth house is resources, anything that your partner is dealing with in terms of their salary, if your partner is changing jobs or maybe retiring, obviously that's going to impact you. So all of that could be going on in some way. On the 5th, we have a new moon in that house, so there's new developments with that. And new developments is kind of like an open-ended phrase. That could be new developments in your partner's retirement, new developments in your partner's new job where he or she is making twice as much money or something like that. New developments with an inheritance issue. On the 10th, Jupiter turns retrograde in Sagittarius, and this is your 4th house of home and family. So Virgo, what has that Jupiter influence thus far brought to you? Have you noticed any changes from November until now with your home itself? Have you felt the urge to expand it? Have you been looking for a bigger house? Has your household increased? Whether it has been a new child that you have brought in because you give birth or you adopted, or do you have somebody staying with you, perhaps a loved one? That could be another form of an expansion to the household. The 4th house is real estate. So, I mean, if you pursued a career in this area and maybe like flipping houses or who knows, I mean, it could be anything like that. Now Jupiter's retrograde. So when Jupiter retrogrades, it can provide opportunities that you somehow could not take advantage of the first time around. So this could be you were going to buy a house and it went off the market before you got it, or some other snafu, or you didn't have the money and now you do. By the way, the 4th house can be the mother. So perhaps you had some kind of financial benefit from the mother. Maybe she gave you the money for a down payment for the house, and then for whatever reason, maybe because you couldn't get the house that you wanted, or now it may be possible for you to do just that. It could be that something that you had hoped to do, like if, let's say it was something like flipping houses, maybe you're going to find that goes down a little bit and that you have to look at things from a more internalized point of view. And especially as it relates to how something squares off to your personal philosophy or your optimism, because these are associated with Jupiter. And Jupiter is the ruler of the 9th house, which has to do with expansion. So, maybe you even have a change of heart about what you really want, because sometimes people think bigger is better. And if you were planning on buying a house and something fell through before, you might have thought, oh, this is terrible that this fell through. And it may be a blessing in disguise, because it may make you think twice about whether you really want that McMansion. Actually, it sounds absurd to say that about a Virgo. Most Virgo people will not want some kind of a property that is overly large. Now, you might want a lot of land, though, and that might be kind of what ends up happening, because, perhaps your mate wanted something that was very, grandiose in terms of what we would call upgrading, or what's that phrase? I can't think of it, but it's synonymous with upgrading. Maybe I'm thinking of upgrading. And, maybe you're married to a Leo or a Sagittarius, and they want something really big, and you really said, no, this isn't me. And it might not have even been that you had put your foot on. Maybe the universe intervened on your behalf. And now if it comes up again, you can say, I just don't want to live. I don't want to have to clean all of that. I don't want to have to pay the taxes for extra square feet that we're not going to even use. So I could see getting property that's small with a lot of land. Maybe you decide to do something like that, and that is your compromise. And Jupiter will turn direct in August. So it's going to be about 4 months that it will be retrograde. On the 17th, Mercury goes into Aries, again in that 8th house, joining the sun. Now for half of the month, Mercury is in your opposite sign of Pisces, in that 7th house of relationships, committed partnerships. Now, this could be kind of indicating that you are really getting deep with a partner. I didn't give that particular interpretation, but I should have also included that one, because the 7th house is committed partnership, and Mercury in that 7th house indicates talking to your partner. You're ruled by Mercury, Virgo, so you like to talk. That's not a problem for you, but you may be with somebody who is more tight-lipped. I was going to say a Scorpio. And actually, Virgo and Scorpio get along very nicely, but it can be frustrating for somebody who is with a Scorpio, and maybe even the other water signs, Cancer and Pisces. Even though you get along with these signs, you may find that you're more talkative than they are. And especially the male water signs. They may be the strong silent type. So this is going to kind of break through a barrier, because when Mercury goes into that 8th house, we're talking about really digging deep in conversations. And something spur you on to be doing that in the first place. I don't know what that would be. But then once you get the ball rolling, it's like you get to know this person at an even deeper level. And when I say this person, this could be your spouse. You could be married to this person for 10 years and you're having your first really deep conversation. Now, what this could involve is something within you that you've been meaning to share. And I should have kind of put it when I was talking about shadow work, and I said something about secrets. You may be carrying things, Virgo, that you want to kind of unburden yourself from. Secrets, things that you feel ashamed about, and you really want to be able to discuss this with somebody close to you. And you don't want to hold it in any longer. And so this could be the month that you're kind of purging yourself of these things. And it could be with your partner. And also Mercury is contracts. So that could be something along the lines of if you have some kind of a probate issue, that could be dealing with that will. So on the 19th, we have a full moon at 29 degrees of Libra, and this is the second one in Libra that we've had. Of course, in March, we had one at the equinox at 0 degrees. So I've been calling these bookends because it's like the first degree being 0, and then now the last degree, the critical degree, in the second house of earned income for you. And this could be a situation where you put in your resignation and now you're getting your severance pay. Or if you experienced any kind of job loss back around that time of the equinox, and there had to be some kind of process in order to get everything sorted out, then maybe this is the fruition of all of that. Or if you retired and you're getting your pension, or you're getting your Social Security and you have to plug in the information and it takes time to get it. But this is going to be with the money that you earn. So typically I would think of something connected to your actual, I guess Social Security, that's from the money that you earn. So it could be something along those lines. But this could be also, if you're currently employed, that this is some kind of money that coming to fruition because you have worked a certain amount of time. Like, not everybody gets paid every week. I mean, some people are doing contract work, or they're doing some kind of a project where they don't get paid until it's done, or they get a commission if they're working on straight commission, like a salesperson. And certainly Virgos are great salespeople because they have the gift of gab, and they also have intelligence and a sense of their, having that information at hand, being ruled by Mercury. On the 20th, the very next day, we have the Sun in Taurus, which is a fellow Earth sign, and that's going to be in the 9th house. And this makes your mind expansive. So, and actually, with the Sun, it's not necessarily your mind. That would be more Mercury. But let's just say as an influence on your whole being, you may feel almost like a breath of fresh air because you're coming from this very interior place, this psychological place, and now it's like you're free to expand in whatever way you choose. This is going to be a time of possible travel, and especially when other personal planets join this 9th house. And it's also a time not only of outer expansion, but inner expansion, whether it be through your intellect expanding or through your, how could I put it? If it's not your intellect, then it might be your spiritual growth. And on the outer side of things, travel can be indicated, especially when the new moon goes into this sector in May. But even with outer expansion through actually physically going far away, there still is that inner expansion because you're getting to meet people from different walks of life, different cultures, and that enhances your view on things. On the same day that the Sun goes into Taurus, Venus goes into Aries. It's very fiery, coming from your opposite sign, Pisces, which is quite compassionate, gentle, and intuitive. And so Venus has been in that 7th house a committed partnership. So that was another indication that you may have recently experienced a lot of, harmony within a relationship. And now it's in the 8th house. And that's that deep house. So your love going even deeper than just, two people that care about each other. Then it's like that. As I said, it's like a spiritual bond. Now, this is and by the way, Venus too can be about money. So that could be, again, if there's some kind of inheritance issue, or if your spouse is dealing with some kind of a financial situation. And I would think it would be on the plus side or the beneficial side, because when Venus goes into a house, it can indicate some kind of monetary gain. So at the end of the month, there are 2 retrogrades, and they're both in outer planets. Mercury goes retrograde on the 24th in Capricorn, and Saturn goes retrograde on the 29th in Capricorn, both in Capricorn, in the 5th house of romance for you. The 5th house is also the house of creativity. We could even talk about it in terms of your childhood. It's interesting. The 4th and 5th houses are dealing with you as a child. and also your creativity. With Pluto retrograde in this fifth house, this can make you aware of some of the things that may have been not quite right while you were growing up, and how you possibly how it affected certain things about you now. When Pluto goes retrograde, it exposes some of the shadow even more so. It's not that warm and fuzzy when it's direct as a planet, but when it's retrograde, it's one of those planets that really, exposes that dark underbelly. And also another thing is looking at love. What is the fifth house is like the nature of love, and maybe your concept of love. With Pluto here as a transit in general, this is you really exploring this issue in whatever way it comes to you particularly. And this could mean that you understand, especially if you felt like love has eluded you, that you understand, exactly what influences from your past may have affected that. And, the other thing too, when there's a Pluto transit in the fifth house, be careful about any relationship that is obsessive, because, I was going to say with a Scorpio, but it doesn't have to be, because Pluto rules Scorpio. It doesn't have to be a Scorpio, but it can be somebody who wants power in the relationship and will stop at nothing. And typically when you see people who get involved with somebody who turns out to be obsessive, there are warning signs that the person ignored. Even somebody who says, but he or she just seemed like this perfect person. Well, that's a red flag to me, because people who are authentic are not interested in presenting themselves as perfect. They know that they have flaws. And when somebody knows that they have flaws but basically feels like a good person, they're not going to try to hide some of those things. They'll apologize before they'll hide them. But these people, they know exactly what, the fantasy is about the perfect individual. And who knows, maybe they want to appear to be perfect. But, it can be very creepy, because this person can get you to a point where you are married or moved in with them, and then they show their true colors. And it's not like, oh, I can't leave once I've gotten married or moved in with somebody, but you're in too deep sometimes where you just can't. It's like you've gotten sucked into something. So it's much better, it's much easier to kind of identify this ahead of time. This could even be somebody who kind of turns out to be that way. You might just thought, oh, this person's very intense, and then you find out that they're really more than just intense. They're like psychotic. Well, I don't want to joke about that, but I don't mean that it has to be at that level, but there's somebody who may not know how to moderate themselves in a relationship. And I'm not saying this is going to happen to all of you. I'm just saying be careful. And this is the great thing about these predictions, because then you can be aware of them if they come across your path. Saturn is also in this house retrograding. Now, when Saturn is direct in the fifth house, you're not really that into just fun and games, because the fifth house can be parties, sports, things that you like to do for fun, hobbies. When Saturn is in the fifth house, it's like you're all business. So you may be working more than usual and you don't have time for these kinds of things, or you simply are a man or woman on a mission and you're looking for love, fifth house, that you're like, you want a serious partner, not just fooling around. So when Saturn is retrograding here, you may feel like kind of playing hooky, so to speak, from your goals, because Saturn can be like what you want your achievement to be in a certain area. And you may kind of lapse and lose that sense of purpose for a while Saturn's retrograde, and just kind of date. And I don't think that that's necessarily that bad, but it may derail you in terms of finding that perfect person. In other words, it may delay it, because typically I would think that when Saturn is in your fifth house, you're looking for a serious love relationship. And so in order to do that, you need to date, you need to spend time with that person, get to know them inside and out. And you may just kind of lose that momentum and just say, you know what, and just kind of almost rebel against that influence. And, you know, maybe you do need to take a break, but it's going to be harder to maintain that sense of trying to find that person at this time. You may just want to chill for a bit. Who knows? But anyway, that's what I have for you, Virgo. I hope that some of this seems like it's something that's going on in your life. And if you'd like a personalized reading, a natal chart interpretation, or any other type of reading, I have a moon in Virgo, so I'm pretty analytical about stuff like that. Please check out my offerings at RainaMoonAstrology.com. The link is below. Take care. Bye.